Hey guys, I'm Zed.
And I'm Z.
So, in this video, we're going to talk about list building. How I do it and how Z does it.
And this is just kind of a rough guide on how we personally do it. It's not saying anyone's way is wrong or anything else.
And if you guys do it differently, go down below, tell us how you do it. Or if you guys want to tell us some army lists that you personally love to play, tell us about them. We love hearing new lists. Because, hell, we may even try some of the lists and
go from there.
Yeah.
I mean, it's one of those, you never know how a list is going to quite work until you play test it. So,
yeah,
who knows?
I just played a game yesterday of recording. And I ran my bikes as White Scar. They didn't run as well just because White Scars have not been updated. G-Dub, please update White Scar. Please?
Update everybody, let's be real.
Yeah, just dump all the codexes at once.
You mean like the start of 8th edition? That was great.
Yes, just do it. I will go broke buying all of the codexes. Anyways, so, do you want to start?
Sure, yeah. I mean, my approach to list building is pretty simple. Normally, I figure out what point level me and my opponent want to play, or the event I'm going to wants to play. And once I kind of know that, I can kind of go, okay, well, what do I want to do? And, I play a couple of different armies, so I have options generally, but, if I'm just, hey, I'm playing 1,000 points. Okay, well, that means my armor, my heavy things are probably out of the realm of possibility, so normally I'm going to start that list by, okay, cool, I'm going to have a pretty heavy infantry component. What am I going to do with that? And generally that's going to be, I'm going to indulge my penchant for flamethrowers. Lots of flamethrowers. So that list will probably start off with 2 double heavy flamer chimeras with with veteran squads inside. 5 guys will have shotguns, 3 flamers, a heavy flamer, and the sergeant with a power sword. Then I kind of build around that with special weapons teams, heavy weapons teams, guard squads with just flamethrowers involved, and then scout sentinels with heavy flamers. Because, if you're not going to roll good dice, you might as well roll a bunch of dice. Mitigate that poor roll chance. So, that's kind of what I do, is I just look at my point level. I figure out what I want to do within that point level, and I try to build a list around that philosophy. Even if it's like, okay, cool, I'm building my fluffy take-all-comers list, well, then it's like, okay, I've got first platoon to kind of deal with my infantry opponents. Second platoon is going to be more so to deal with the armor, and, in my guard component list. In my Marines, I generally kind of go, okay, I want an assault element that's pretty rapid movement and a pretty static gun emplacement where I can just put out firepower. With my sisters, again, we're kind of playing around with the miracle dice, mitigating, poor dice rolls with more dice rolls.
Sisters are great with that.
Yeah, especially with one of our good friends here.
Oh, yeah.
But the other thing I try to keep in mind with that list is I try to keep it primarily an infantry component list. I want numbers, I want the mass, so I don't really take the exorcist or the rhinos or anything right now in most of my list. But that's a personal preference. I know other people do tend to prefer the vehicles.
Oh, yeah, I love the vehicles and sisters.
I love the looks of them. I love how they play. It's just not how I've been running my list lately.
Well, yeah, with sisters, you gotta have the organ playing while firing missiles.
I don't even own one. I don't even own an exorcist right now.
I own one, and I have to say that model was a pain to paint. Especially those ivory keys and the little roses and
sub-assemblies and patience.
Yeah, that was my problem. I put it all together at once.
Sub-assemblies.
Yeah, that one you got to. Me, I usually like Z, start with, okay, how many points? If it's 1,000, which is what we normally play, is 1,000 points here.
At least since the start of the pandemic,
Yeah.
it gets games through quickly, gets through games fast, so that way we're not taking up a bunch of space in the local game store, especially with, everyone still trying to be safe.
And then I look at, okay, so what gimmick do I want to do in this game? Because my list are based about... Sorry, I got the hiccups for some reason. I always have a gimmick. Like, with my Marines, my bikes.
Mm-hmm.
I built an entire list that is bikes. Fast attack. Everything is on a bike or an ATV. Get in there, get fast, and go. Not saying it's the best list. I've lost every game that I've played with it. But you can also understand, I lose more games than I win. And then I have a list that is, it's pure concealed deployment. I don't deploy in my deployment zone.
Yeah. And if I recall correctly, that's the force that you kind of counter-deployed on Memorial Day during our massive battle, which that's always fun, is to have a bunch of Marine scout snipers jumping in front and hiding in front of your Bane Blades, so, there's no nasty little assault Marines or anything else jumping in there.
I have scouts, the intercessors?
And the infiltrators?
Yeah, infiltrators. I have everything that can still deploy. Yeah, I have way too much of that. But then I've also got my heavy list that I built because I just want to firepower, big booms.
So have you picked up any heavy intercessors yet?
Not yet. I want to. One of our buddies at the shop just picked up a second box. So he's going to be running a 10-man squad of heavies.
I've got 2 boxes sitting at home right now, unassembled. Again, with the overtime that I've been doing, I just don't get a lot of time. I just managed to get some of my Lumineth actually primed today.
Oh, yeah.
So.
Well, that and also G-Dub has had some issues getting primer.
Again, state of the world, a lot of supply lines are kind of disrupted. So it's one of those, I'm not going to fault somebody for that as much as, hey, listen, have a plan, be vocal about, hey, this is what we're looking at, this is kind of time frames. Our local shop owner was able to let me know, hey, listen, it's going to be about this much time before you got it. And they were pretty spot on with the timing, so I knew it was going to be a bit.
But yeah, I always go with a gimmick. Now, we do also have... We play with points. So, obviously, we have the chapter approves that we play with. I don't like power levels as much.
I haven't actually gotten to play around with the power levels too much. I know our shop owner is a pretty big proponent of it. For, it being admittedly, okay, cool, we're going to play this power level, slap together a list, but it's one of those, if we're playing a game that's admittedly a little bit micromanagey already, why not go all the way, commit to it, and just go, hey, listen, if we know you're going to be micromanaging your list to the point where you're having to, ink out, hey, it's proportionally 0.24% better at dealing with this type of thing, and I'm exaggerating probably, but it's one of those, when you're looking at small, minute differences like that, you might as well just go all the way and just commit to points.
And I actually have to say, GW's, in 9th edition, the points have actually been pretty decent on how they've laid them out. Most weapons actually don't cost many more points. Many more. There are some rocket launcher flamethrowers are still point... They cost a lot of points. But, see, my guardsmen... Yeah, I just go tanks. I want to get as many tanks in there as I can.
See, and that's the one kind of list that I feel bad for playing, is like I'm going to send a message. Here comes the Baneblade Squadron, or here comes the You've messaged me on no sleep to build a list in 2 hours to play you the very next day. In, a very few amount of hours. And you want to play a weird number, 27-ish, 28-ish, 100. Okay. Here's 11 Lehman Russes plus a Baneblade. Have fun with the Armored Company. Even when you have 4,000 or 5,000 points on me by the end of that game.
Yeah, and then Knights. Yeah, Knights are the same. I don't think Knights should be in small point games.
I actually don't have a problem with Knights in small point games. They're very much to me like a Custodes army. They're very, very small, very, very elite forces. And so with that, they do have that trade-off of, okay, well, if I stretch you across the field, you can't possibly stretch to all the objectives. So you have to play the game a little bit smarter. The movement matters more. It adds that extra element. So I do think that it's fine to exist. More than anything else, it's one of those, I personally feel bad because I feel like, oh, that's a huge point sink. I, first of all, don't want to see my big thing blown off the board in the first turn.
Right.
So I've invested 25% of my list into this, and now it's gone. So I try to spread my point value out. That kind of goes into my philosophy though, where boys before toys a little bit, but I don't mind spending, a few points on a missile launcher here, points on a hunter killer here. I don't want it to be a situation where I get into it and it's like, okay, you lost the initiative. You're going second, and by the time you get around to your turn and get to you do your shooting, your biggest threats are gone.
Yeah,
it's irrelevant because of the way the terrain got set up by whoever's running the game or whoever set it out for your game. You didn't stand a chance of playing your cool model that you took a bunch of time, energy, and in this case points into playing. So that's kind of my thing, is I don't like the big point investment, things like that, because it feels like if it goes wrong, it's just going to create some potential for field ads.
Yeah. I would like some more opportunities to bring my big toys, just because I spent the money on the big toys.
And
I want to play them, but I don't like bringing the big toys when it's a small point, because I want to have fun. Overall, my lists are built just to have fun.
Yeah, and I don't have a problem when the big toys come out to fight the big toys. It's more so when it's just, hey, we're playing a 2,000 point list. Oh, hey, and by the way, I'm bringing a Lord of War because I want to. And then not knowing the opponent, but knowing that the Lord of War is coming, just going, okay, and just las cannon the thing down or whatever. I don't like it because it creates too much temptation for the focus fire mentality of kill it till it's dead. Now I can just chip shot the rest of his stuff.
Yeah, and my problem would be I want to bring the next time I bring Guardsmen, I want to bring the Stormlord.
Yeah.
Because it's the big transport vehicle. And again, I only get to play that thing once a year. So, I know I want to do some battles with you where we can show off some lists and stuff like that. And do some army showing lists, videos where we're showing you what our armies look like. Because I know your army looked impressive.
Well, thanks. I'm not going to say it's the most well-painted thing in the world. Obviously, I've been taking some time to work on it, but it's one of those, I haven't actually sat down to paint since before Memorial Day, probably about 3 weeks before Memorial Day, and that was me trying to finish up the Shadow Sword to get it ready for the table that day. I got it table ready, but I didn't get it where I want it to be. I'm still missing the stubber on top, and so I've got a little bit more work I have to do there. But yeah, certainly I don't mind showing kind of my stages of progress, or the room of shame as I'm calling it, because that's what it is. It's a room where it's like, here are my model projects. My magic stuff's in the other room. And then I have my office.
Yeah, but you've also seen mine where I have, there's the unpainted models, there's the unput together models in separate rooms.
Yeah, I have a section where it's like, here's the unpainted stuff, unprimed. Here's the primed in a box. Here's the primed of this unit that's working to be put together and assembled there. There's a work in progress station on the desk. Here's the organization here. Here's the crates full of stuff. Here's where the vehicles go. So I've got an organized chaos in that room. But, you know,
Speaking of organized chaos, like this,
something like that, you know. So it's one of those. Ultimately, it's one of those. Everyone's got their own little kind of piles of shame. Let's be real. You know, whether that's a hobby room that's pretty small, or a bookshelf that's taken up, or like me, a dedicated bedroom space in the house where it's just office table there, desk here, dresser here, and all of it is covered in models or, you know, model kits. So,
you know, that's another video I do. Going through and showing the different sections in my house where all my stuff is stored, gathered at.
You know, and that might be something you do as like a special. It might be something where you kind of screenshot it, or you take small pictures and go, hey.
You know what, guys? I have an idea. You guys get this channel to 100 subscribers, and I'll do that. And maybe even something more special.
I mean, and I think that's feasible. Those are some rookie numbers. We can pump those numbers a bit.
Hey, 50. All we need at this point is 52 subscribers. So we are at 48 right now. We need 52. And I will show you all the stuff. And I will even do something more special. But I won't tell you what yet.
Yeah, and, you know, ultimately it's one of those where we do try to focus on the games we play, you know, actively, which for the most part, for me, is like 40K and Magic. But at the same time, I know we also have a lot of dedicated hobby spaces, and list building can differ between the various games.
Oh,
so,
yeah.
You know, it's one of those, if you're interested in seeing other deck building type videos, I know I'm talking about, you know, here with Zed, possibly going over how, like, I build my commander decks, going over, like, deck text, stuff like that, and kind of showcasing some of that process behind the scenes to help somebody who either is new to the format, doesn't understand kind of the principles behind it, or is one of those like, hey, I'm looking for a different perspective. Maybe there's something I'm not catching. Okay, well, you know, that way it's a kind of sit-down powwow to figure out, hey, this is kind of how I build. This is my philosophy. This is my technique. Is there something I can teach you, or is there something I can learn from you, and we can work together? And
also, I want to bring you more games than just 40K and Magic. I know I'm into the Digimon game, the X-Ring, HeroClix. I can talk about games all day. Yeah. I know I'm trying to learn how to play Crisis Protocol.
Yeah, and, you know, I play X-Wing. I also do a lot of video games. I play a lot of, like, other off-the-wall stuff. I know we've got the stuff for Legion to kind of start that up.
Yes.
And I know you're trying to talk me into World War III because, you know, more games is more games.
Hey, you talked me into Legion. So I got to talk you into World War III.
You're not wrong.
Because you said you wouldn't play World of Tanks because it was World War II tanks. And that you want modern tanks, and here's a game.
It's not even that I wanted modern tanks. It's that I wanted my Abrams, I wanted my Strikers, I wanted my Humvees, and this game's got it. It's just been a matter of, can I commit the time to another game?
So guys, go down below and tell Z to get the starter kit that our local game shop has in stock right now.
Yeah, and between that, you know, the other things we're kind of looking at here in the radar, you know, I don't know if there's other games you've personally looked at. I know you do Pokemon
Yep,
from
we
time
have
to time.
Pokemon. My son is big into Pokemon, so I might bring him on and play some Pokemon with him.
Yeah. And you know, between that, it's one of those we could we're still toying around with some of the content. So it's one of those we're pretty flexible. We're just trying to have an idea of what we want to bring before we commit to bringing it to you.
Yes. There's ideas floating around all the time. One of mine is talking about the White Dwarf magazine, what's in it when it comes out, because I always buy them. And I flip through them and then I never look at them again.
You know, and that might be a decent end of year video, is just to kind of sum up, hey, this is kind of what White Dwarf accomplished this year. That might be a once a year thing, so that way you can kind of keep it fresh, but at the same time, recap people. In case their local store's got it still on the shelf, they can go in, pick it up, if there's something in there they're looking for. Whether that's, you know, information about a new chapter of Space Marines they might want to make, whether that's, you know, new lore dump, whether that's new rules for one of the games they play.
I know last year, because of the global pandemic, for Blackstone, they actually had rules for single player Blackstone. No, not Blackstone. Necromunda.
Okay.
It was single campaigns in Necromunda that you could play by yourself.
All
Which
right.
awesome. Getting to play with your models and stuff that you spend time and stuff, even though you can't have your buddies over, that's actually was kind of cool.
Yeah.
I actually kind of wanted to try to do something like that with 40K.
Yeah, and I mean, ultimately, outside of that, the other things we, you know, might be looking at is other kind of hobbying content. So, like, building terrain, things like that. I know we've discussed. That just, you know, it's kind of involved. It required us getting the work set up where reasonably we would have access to a workspace and everything that we could also film at.
Yes. There's a lot of things in the works. But final thoughts?
Ultimately, when it comes down to army or list building philosophy, it's one of those, do what you want to do. Everyone's going to kind of do it differently. You know, preferably kind of follow within the social contract of, hey, you know, work on your list. Don't kind of just metagame to the person you're playing. I mean, obviously tournament formats and things like that are going to be a lot more competitive and different.
Yes.
But as a general rule, that's going to be my main kind of takeaway from this is just, you know, we're here to have fun. It's a game.
Mine would be have fun with it. Build what you want. Don't worry about the meta. Or whatever the new hotness. Because guess what? The new hotness is going to go out and something new is going to come in. I build bikes a lot. Concealed deployment. That's what I like.
Yeah. And ultimately, it's one of those things change constantly. It's one of those, I don't run Bullgrins, but my buddy who runs the same army swears by them. Won't run a list without them. So,
the Bullgun bus.
Bully bus, yeah.
The bully bus.
So it's one of those, everyone's got a different way to play. Don't judge them for it. It's one of those, it's a difference in tactics, it's a different in opinion, different in philosophy. We're all different. It's fine.
And you know, maybe that game, that list didn't run right. Fix it up. Change it up a little bit.
Yeah.
But, as always, guys, please like, share, subscribe, do all that stuff, because it really does help. Stay forever new, stay safe, and we'll catch you next time. Peace.
Have a good one.